Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a brilliant chess battle packed with tactics, strategy, and surprises. Let's dive right in. It's still. Wesley opens with e4. The king's pawn marches forward like a blade drawn at dawn, signaling that battle is about to erupt in the very heart of the board. Susanto replies with nf6, a daring Alekhine defense, taunting the pawn to advance while the knight dances into danger with a grin. Wesley pushes e5, no hesitation, pura aggression, pushing the knight back and claiming the center as his kingdom. Susanto retreats nd5, flexible and sly. His knight withdraws, only to circle back later, eyeing counterplay. Wesley strikes with d4, expanding his territory, declaring this board belongs to white steel and fire. Susanto answers with 6, reinforcing the defense line, setting up a solid wall to contain the storm. Wesley thrusts c4, pushing the knight again. White pawns now march in harmony like soldiers, tightening the net. Susanto slides nbd6. The knight takes refuge on the flank, plotting mischief from the shadows. Wesley captures x6. He takes the bait and cracks open black's pawn structure. The first scar of war appears. Susanto recaptures x6, restoring order but leaving a faint wound in his formation. Still calm on the surface, Wesley develops nc3. The cavalry arrives. Another knight joins the fray, eyes burning toward the center. Susanto places sp7, quiet but menacing. Black prepares to castle and weather the storm. Wesley continues with bd3, bishop to the front lines, eyeing the kingside with silent menace. Susanto strikes n6. Black builds pressure on the center. Tension thickens, like gathering thunder. Wesley plays zingetwu, subtle reinforcement, hiding his real intentions beneath calm preparation. Susanto fianquetos bj4. The dark bishop pins and provokes, whispering chaos into the white camp. Wesley calmly answers b3, a wall of discipline, cutting the pin and preparing to strike back. Susanto connects qd7. The queen joins the orchestra, harmonizing for a potential kingside melody. Wesley castles. The white king retreats to safety, ready for the mid-game fireworks. Susanto pushes nb4. The knight lunges like a dagger, poking at soft spots around d3 and c2 taoyun. Wesley defends with b3. The pawn rises like a shield, refusing any intrusion on his flank. Susanto captures xd3. The knight trades itself for structure, hoping to bruise white's formation. Wesley recaptures qxd3. Queen restores balance, standing proudly in the open field. Susanto advances d5. The center explodes. Black breaks free from the grip of white's pawns. Wesley pushes c5, a brilliant block, freezing the tension and claiming spatial domination. Susanto develops NC8, retreating, but perhaps regrouping for a counterattack. Patience before violence. Wesley brings in Gang3. The knight reroutes like a predator searching for the perfect strike. Susanto places BH4. The bishop perches dangerously close, whispering threats around the king's corner. Wesley fires F3. Enough whispering. He kicks the bishop, turning calm preparation into raw fury. Susanto retreats B6. The bishop slides back, maintaining dignity while watching for revenge. Wesley jumps N at 5. The knight storms forward, and snarling at G7. And C. Poor chaos in white armor. Susanto castles. The king flees to safety. But tension now hums like electricity. Wesley repositions QD2, linking the rooks, tightening the white network for the next assault. Einge. Susanto setzt bedeit. Odd but strategic. Perhaps plotting a sneaky return to the king's side. Wesley doubles with Rayoni. The heavy artillery lines up. Rooks ready to deliver thunder. Susanto pushes F6, a desperate brace, reinforcing the wall before the storm crashes in. Wesley slides. Re2, a quiet lift. But behind it hides venom, plans to double and crush. Susanto moves BFS7. The dark bishop returns to guard the monarch. Silent tension, reloading. Wesley's NF4. The knight returns from the edge, reborn as the blade of vengeance. Susanto applies N7. Black braces for impact, bringing the knight into the thick of defense. Wesley doubles rooks with R-Fion, the battery complete. Cannons now trained at the enemy's fortress. Susanto lifts N6, perhaps seeking counterplay. But the timing feels dangerously thin. Wesley deploys BF2, a small retreat before the leap. Calm before the chaos resumes. Susanto answers B7. Black stays patient, holding his breath in the tightening vice. Wesley pushes B4. The queenside ignites. Pawns storming like tanks, crushing the flank. Susanto hits back with A6, an attempt to halt the avalanche, though the ground already trembles. Wesley plays F4, pure momentum. Each pawn steps screaming domination. Susanto activates RF8. The rook shifts to reinforce the crumbling front. Tension peaks. Wesley thrusts B5. The push of no return. Splitting open, black's camp. Susanto counters with Axe B5. Steel meets steel. An explosion on the flank. Wesley recaptures Axe B5. The attack rolls forward. The file opens like a wound in black's armor. Susanto strikes Nafiv, a knight leap to block the bleeding. Heroic, but desperate. Wesley brings NCXDX5. A tactical bomb detonates, sacrificing to tear the center apart. Susanto captures BXD5. Black takes the knight. But the calm before disaster lingers. Wesley recaptures NXT5, relentless. The White Knight returns. Vengeance, burning bright tunnel, hand center, till one schrecht kesen enterperdel. Susanto answers QEXS5, Queen trades blow for blow. Holding the line but losing ground. Wesley smashes into the heart of Black's position with RxE7. The rook severs a key defender, and rips open lines like a battering ram, forcing trades and escalating the violence. Susanto answers with RxE7. The rook recaptures dutifully, hen und seinen, trying to patch the hole but only trading wood for smoke as the position grows raw and exposed. Wesley calmly reprises, with RxE7. The rook returns to the center like a gladiator reclaiming the arena, leaving Black reeling and short on shelter. Susanto lashes out with NB3. The knight leaps forward to harass White's queenside. A desperate corkscrew of counterplay aimed at stalling Wesley's momentum. Wesley slides, QC3. The queen plants herself on an aggressive post, eyes fixed on the enemy king and ready to orchestrate the final concerto of attack. Susanto flashes Raune. The rook darts in, with a checking sting. An abrupt attempt to disorient Wesley, and buy a few breaths for his monarch. Wesley responds with Rione. The rook interposes confidently, blocking the check and restoring order, while keeping his attacking rhythm unbroken. Susanto trades, with Ezione, and Bilwanoxe. The rook sacrifices itself to simplify, clinging to tactical chances by forcing heavy exchanges in a collapsing camp. Wesley retakes, with Quisione. The queen calmly recaptures, stepping into the vacuum of power and tightening the net around Susanto's exposed king. Susanto nervously lifts KFS7. The king attempts to flee towards safety, marching into the open like a wounded leader trying to rally his troops. Wesley repositions QC3. The queen retreats with purpose, still aiming deadly diagonals and coordinating with minor pieces for the coming onslaught. Susanto ventures K6. The king storms forward into the battlefield. A bold and risky sortie that screams of either salvation or suicide. Wesley pushes H4. A seemingly modest pawn thrust that hums with menace, preparing to pry open the king's side and unleash final wreckage. Susanto answers with A5, mirroring the pawn and trying to blunt the incoming storm. But every pawn move merely narrows his escape routes. Wesley develops B3. The bishop slides into a commanding diagonal, slicing air toward the king and knitting the attack into a lethal tapestry. Susanto scuttles K7, the king retreats awkwardly, seeking shelter while the battlefield tightens into a chokehold around his forces. Wesley lifts QC 2-2. The queen repositions like a surgeon, preparing the incision, aligning pieces with cold calculation for the decisive cut. Susanto gambles fear. A punch of desperation aiming to stir confusion and pry open lines. yet it risks tearing his own ranks apart. Wesley answers with QC3. The queen returns with feline patience, eyeing squares and waiting for the precise instant to strike like lightning. Susanto pushes GA6, another pawn brace that hopes to plug holes. But every pawn advance cedes control of crucial dark squares to white. Wesley plays BF2. The bishop retreats craftily, reloading to dominate the long diagonals and to support a final, inevitable collapse. Susanto brings Q6. The queen rushes to shield the monarch, attempting to weave a fragile net of defense amid the encroaching storm. Wesley slides BG3. The bishop conquers key diagonals and harmonizes with the queen, assembling a lethal formation that smothers black's breathing space. Susanto scopes QD5. The queen scrambles to interpose and trade, hunting for complications, but increasingly running out of meaningful squares to hide. Wesley answers B5. The bishop plants itself like a spearhead into the center, dominating the field and choking off any last black counters. Susanto pushes cheeks, a pawn thrust to create luft and counterplay. But it fractures the structure and hands white fresh entry points to exploit. Wesley detonates BS6 in Q1, Pegden Q6, Capsonate Indonesia. The pawn capture rips open the position with surgical force, delivering a check and shattering Susanto's fragile defenses. Susanto grasps QA6 and Uruguay Pepsayux. The king steps forth to snatch the pawn, bravely exposing himself deeper to the storm in a desperate bid for material. Wesley prowls QB4. The queen glides into the fray with icy intent, stalking the exposed king and lining up the finishing chords of the assault. Susanto replies, en con, her T. The knight hops to cone in a last-ditch block, throwing itself between the queen and king like a weary guardian. Wesley strikes with QBI6. The queen flashes a checking blow, forcing the king to stumble and tightening the vice to a fatal point. Susanto limps K7, the king retreats once more, exhausted and hemmed in, with escape routes evaporating beneath white's relentless pressure. Wesley delivers the coup with QXEG6. The queen captures the decisive pawn and ends the siege in glorious fashion. The final thunderclap that seals a masterful victory. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.